What's up, everybody? Christian Ballard here with Ballard Sports Media coming at you with another 2020 football season preview. Today, the Tennessee Volunteers. All right, so let's rewind real quick back to last year, 2019. Not that good of a season for the Tennessee Vols. Yes, they made a bowl game. Yes, they won it by a point, 23-22 over the Indiana Hoosiers. I think that's how you say it. In the Gator Bowl. But you look at the season, they were on a 2-game losing streak, right? So you start off with the loss to Georgia State, who went like 2-10 last year, or not last year, but in 2018. And Jeremy Pruitt last year in his second year, everyone thought he would have this program turned around and get it going in the right direction. Opens up with a embarrassing loss with Georgia State. Everyone kind of looked at that game and said, you know what, maybe it was a fluke. Maybe they just were off to a rough start. They'll get it turned around the next week. Next week, they lose to BYU 29-26 in double overtime. So it's not looking good. Everyone's wondering what's happening. Then they shut out Chattanooga. By the way, 3 straight home games for them, and they lose 2 of them to no good, nobody teams. Just embarrassing. I mean, Tennessee is an SEC school. And listen, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I got nothing but respect for the Volunteers. I am subscribed to a couple on my own channel. Shout out to BVD and Volunteer Roadshow. So, I got nothing, no disrespect whatsoever. I get the third Saturday rivalry, all that stuff, but, come on. Even Vols fans were looking at those 2 losses last year to begin the season like, what is going on with our program? We suck, stuff like that. So, you open up with 2 losses. You shut out Chattanooga 45-0. You lose on the road at Florida. That loss, understandable. Bye week. Georgia, Mississippi State, and at Alabama, your next 3. You lose 2 of those games. You beat Mississippi State. And then they actually finish, after that Alabama game, pretty strong finish to the season as they have 5 games left in the regular season. And they win all 5. South Carolina, UAB, at Kentucky, at Mizzou, and home against Vandy. So when you look at how they started, it was really rough. Nobody, and I guarantee you, if you ask a Tennessee fan, did you see a 7-5 season? No. No, we did not. Because, listen, we're talking about a team that had one of the biggest turnarounds in SEC history in a season. At least in my opinion. Someone can comment down below, tell me why I'm wrong or whatever, but you lose 38-30 at home against a Georgia State team who went 2-10 the season before. You lose to a Mormon school in BYU in double overtime at home. And from there on, it just... Like, how do you have 2 games that you should have won? Dude, in my own opinion, I think a team like Arkansas or whatever could have beat them at home. And I'm not saying that they would have, but I think they could have. And so it just was not looking good for Tennessee last year at the start. But you win against Chattanooga, and from there on, you win games that... I don't know if anyone expected them to beat Mississippi State or whatever. South Carolina's pretty much a coin flip on the road at Kentucky prior to their second bye week, which everyone got 2 bye weeks because of how the calendar went. And you win at Kentucky, who was pretty much the runner-up 2 years ago in 2018 in the East, and things are looking up. Get a bye week, win at Mizzou, win home against Vanderbilt, and win your bowl game by a point. So Volunteers had, call it a comeback season. They lose to two nobody teams nobody cares about, at home, that is, and everything just looks like it is going to just be one of those years they don't win anything meaningful whatsoever for the Volunteers. But that did not turn out to be the case, so I want to give the Vols credit for that. First off, terrific year for you guys. Or I say terrific. They finished 8-5. They were third in the SEC East. So to finish third in the East after the start that you guys had to the season, round of applause for that. You guys did really well in terms of a turnaround. So, but moving past the 2019 season, that's behind us. That's in the past. Look forward to 2020. Let's check out the schedule. Of course, they have their spring game, April 18th, the orange and white game. Going to be interesting to see what the team will look like, obviously. You open up with the non-con nobody team in the Charlotte 49ers. That's at Neyland Stadium. On the road at Oklahoma. Home against Furman. Home against Florida. Home against Mizzou. And at South Carolina. So as far as the first part of the season goes, from the first game to at least the bye week, I would say that looks, I don't want to say it's all favorable, but we will see what happens. I think South Carolina game on the road could be a trap game. If we'll see what happens with the Florida game. That's going to be interesting to see. So you have those games right there that I just mentioned. You have a bye week before the Alabama game on the 4th Saturday in October, which again I mentioned in the Alabama preview. It's called the third Saturday rivalry. Shout out to BVD for clearing this up on Uncle Lou's morning show on Monday. Really do appreciate you clearing that up for me. Yeah, it has not always been on the third Saturday. It usually is, but I guess once in a blue moon here, they like to make it the fourth Saturday. There's 5 Saturdays in October: the 3rd, the 10th, the 17th, the 24th. And the 31st. So you come off a bye week after the South Carolina game. So South Carolina game, bye week, home against Alabama, at Arkansas, home against Kentucky, at Georgia, home against Troy, and on the road at Vandy. And then, Vandy being in rivalry weekend. And then, of course, the next week, the SEC Championship. So when I look at the schedule, some games that stick out to me, I guess, are the fact that you get Florida and Neyland and Oklahoma on the road. The Georgia game doesn't really stick out all that much because Georgia's going to be a good team, and this is in Athens. If it was at Neyland, I'd say that game sticks out. You get them at home this year, but which it does stick out a little bit because it's Georgia, and Georgia's a good team. Tennessee is a program that Jeremy Pruitt has just taken in, and they've taken him in. And he had a turnaround season last year. What we saw late in the year, of course, go back to that. Won 6 straight games last season in a row. Again, I go back to South Carolina, UAB, Kentucky, Mizzou, Vandy, blah, 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 Indiana. So when I look at that and the consistency, that's really good for Tennessee and what they did last year. Does that really say anything about the team going into it? Into this year? I don't know. But I think it definitely shows that they can be consistent with winning. Now, the challenge of those last 6 games was not very strong, but a win is a win is a win. I've said, right? I don't care. You won the game, right? So it's going to be interesting. They lose a couple guys on the O-line, I think, to the draft, and some guys on defense, but they return a lot of great talent to their roster. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't really see Tennessee all that much, but I have paid attention to who's on the team. Not 100% sure on who, all the stats, although I have it right here, but so let me see. So you get a lot of guys coming back on defense. Nigel Warrior, I actually think he declared for the draft. I think Kenneth George, Trayvon Flowers, to name a couple names. But Vols fans, you guys obviously watch your team. You know some stuff. So you guys let me know before I mess any of this up. But I think they're going to have some great talent. I think especially on the defensive side up front. Probably won't be the best in the league or anything. But Tennessee is a team that is slowly starting to climb that ladder. They're very slow. They're still in like the, baby steps process stage with Jeremy Pruitt. I think the toughest game on the schedule, 3 tough games for them, or really there's like 4 games that are, you could look at it and say they're not winning. Bama, Oklahoma, Florida, and Georgia. If I had to pick one of those games for them to win, honestly, probably it's very tough. I don't think they'll beat Alabama at Neyland. I don't think they'll win on the road at Georgia. So that leaves Oklahoma and Florida. Florida is going to be really good this year, contending for the East, contending for the playoffs. Oklahoma as well, but Oklahoma loses quite a bit of talent. They're working with a 5-star freshman in Spencer Rattler at the quarterback position. I don't know about Oklahoma. This is in Norman. I guess I'll give that to Oklahoma right now. I would probably give them Florida just because it's in Neyland, and I don't see them winning at Georgia. Bama owns them, and so I'd give them the Florida game of those 4: Oklahoma, Florida, Bama, and Georgia. And if I gave them that one, and then they win the rest except for those 3 games, looking at probably a 8-4 or 9-3 season for the Volunteers. Is that an improvement from last year? Let's take a look real quick. We go back, and they went 8-5 overall. So that was a 7-5 season, plus the bowl game gave them 8 wins on the year in whole. So looking at probably an 8-4 records, so they would probably get 1 or 2 more wins. It is possible they could slip up. I mean, listen, you remember, again, last year, Georgia State and BYU. They should have easily won those games. Now, they were close, but they still should not have lost those games, should not have given up that many points, blah, blah, probably should have blown them out. They open up with the non-con cupcake in Charlotte 49ers. I think they could handle it. I think they learned from their mistakes from last year, and I think they most likely find a way to get the job done. So we're looking at maybe a 8-4, could go 9-3 this year, but I'll stick to probably 8-4 right now for the Tennessee Volunteers. But then again, you never know. Anything can happen. It's going to be a very interesting year. They could lose at South Carolina. I think they'll be a better team this year, though. Tennessee will. I think they could possibly win that game. At Arkansas, really? Come on, Arkansas is terrible. We know that. Just go ahead and get that out of the way. Troy at home. Troy doesn't beat SEC teams. Okay, fine. It's been a couple years, but LSU knows what I'm talking about. You guys know. I know you remember that. So anyway. So the losses: Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and I don't know. You could pick one or two games here or there. Probably at Oklahoma. So at Oklahoma, home against Florida, at Georgia, and home against Bama. Those 4 games, and they go 8-4 plus whatever happens in the bowl game. We'll see what happens as we get into the season and late into next season. When the bowl matchups are set, I might do some bowl projections and stuff. So, gonna be quite a year for them. They probably get 1 or 2 extra wins than they did last year, but you never know what could happen. So anyway, it is what it is. Tennessee's going to be a much improved team, I think. They lose a couple pieces, they gain a couple pieces. But anyway, you never know with Tennessee. Jeremy Pruitt, I think, in my own opinion, is the right guy for this job. I think he showed that when he just had such a turnaround last year. Listen, you go back to the let's go back to the Bama game last year at Bryant Denny, and it hasn't been that close between these two teams in quite a while. It was 35-13, only a couple points. Alabama probably should have scored a little more, in my opinion. It was at one point, 21-13, and Alabama just scored quite a few points late in the game. And I remember watching that game, and Alabama was just like, dude, I'm sitting there and I'm like, we're Alabama at home, and it looks like we're just doing nothing against a Tennessee team who had lost to BYU and Georgia State. But all that aside, Tennessee's going to be great this year. They're not back. I don't even know if they were ever there, but 8-4, 7-5, potentially 9-3. I don't know, somewhere in there. But I would probably say 4 losses this year. Go 8-4. Again, those losses: Oklahoma, Florida, Bama, and Georgia, right there. And so 8-4, potential 9-3, depending on what happens with maybe that Florida game or that Oklahoma game. But you never know. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this preview video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. I really would appreciate all that. Comment down below, Vols fans, if you're watching. I know I got a couple subscribe to me. Let me know what your thoughts are. What do you see your team doing this year? Any other college football fans that are fans of other teams? Whatever. If you have an opinion on this, let me know. Give your predictions for the Volunteers. Are they going to crap the bed, or are they going to go all the way and have a nice night and all that, So, you let me know. And I guess that's pretty much it. So, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks so much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time. Until then, Ballard Sports Media. Checking out.